This is an MS Conversations Now program, and this is with Patients' Voices. And we said about Patients' Voices because we are MS patients and we have voices to discuss. And my name is Stuart Schlossman. I'm president, founder, and an MS patient, and that's what prompted this program to begin with. This program is supported by our organization, MS Views and News, and tonight's guest, we have Cathy Chester. And Cathy Chester, I have known her for a long time. She knew me when I had black hair. I mean, that's how long ago.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, you had black hair?
No, not black, but brown.
I don't think so. Right. So anyway, yeah, Cathy's known me for a very long time. And, I've seen a lot of the work that Cathy does. I'm very inspired by the work that she does. And that's what she, what this is about. This is about, we're meeting inspiring people living with multiple sclerosis who volunteer or work within the MS community. And that's what this program is about. So, to bring in, month to month, we have different candidates that we have, and Cathy is our guest for tonight. I have questions for Cathy, right? Okay. Cathy,
okay.
Are you ready? I know it took, by the way, everybody, we had an experience getting online tonight, and Cathy, I think, was going to pass out before the program began because she was really, really stressed in trying to get online, all right? But between our producer and Cathy's husband, they got it all worked out. So firstly, Cathy, can you tell us how long ago and how were found to be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
Well, it's been a long road. Actually, this month is my 35th year since my diagnosis. So I was diagnosed in 1986. And it's a typical story. I was young, I was working in Manhattan, and I was living on my own, and it was a great time of my life. I was dating someone seriously, and my feet were very, very numb. I could hardly walk, and my hands weren't working very well, and I had great fatigue. And one day when I was walking home through Port Authority bus terminal, I noticed that I was walking kind of crooked, and one of my heels had come off in Port Authority, but I hadn't even felt it because my foot was so numb. So I went to the doctor, not a regular doctor, not a specialist, because in those days, who knew? And I was actually diagnosed very quickly compared to a lot of other people. I had I don't think they were doing MRIs then, a CAT scan and a spinal tap, and it was conclusive that I had MS. And I did go into the city to Manhattan for a second opinion, and that's when the neurologist said, "You have MS, but we'll have a cure in 5 years."
Right.
So anyway, welcome 2021.
So they didn't put you in a hot bathtub and try to determine how you had MS based on the hot tub?
No, I'm not that old. No, I know that was used many years ago, but no, there was no internet and no medications back then either. So it was a very scary time. Yeah, so that was the beginning of my journey. A strange and wonderful and crazy journey.
So what did they do for you, though? I mean, you said how you were diagnosed, but what did they actually do for your symptoms?
Well, they gave me steroids. They gave me oral steroids right off. And the doctor told me to give up my apartment, move back with my parents, quit my job, and wait and call them if I ever had another exacerbation. And that was the advice. And as naive and young as I was, I did all of that. I gave up my job, I gave up my apartment, and I moved back home with my parents, who were very understanding and very supportive, and they were there with me and my boyfriend every step of the way. But can you even imagine that today? No. So that was what they did for me, or didn't do for me. But what my doctor did do for me was he said I would be better off to find what was pretty new back then, a comprehensive care center where they treat every aspect of MS, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And that's exactly what I did. And I found a new MS center. And that's when the nurse practitioner I had said to me, never let MS be the sum total of who you are. And that really started me on the road. Yeah.
Great to hear that.
Yeah.
So before I ask you the next question, if anybody has any questions for Cathy, all right, or for me, but if anybody has any questions for Cathy, at the top of your scroll bar on the right side, there's an orange box, or an orange rectangle rather, or it could be red depending on how your eyes are. Just click on that and type in, and we will, I'll ask your questions to Cathy. All right. Now, please remember, Cathy is not a medical doctor, so please do not be asking her things that a real doctor will have to answer for you. All right. Next, Cathy, can you share with the audience how MS has impacted your life, for the good, for the bad, for the ugly, for the different, for whatever?
Well, it's done all of those things. I mean, we're talking about, over 3 decades of living with this disease. So as things started to change, I saw it from the very beginning, where there were no medications, and then 7 years later there were medications, and from no internet to some internet, to social media, to this. So I kind of grew along with everything else. But I also, the good, yes, the good helped me focus more on learning about self-care, and learning how to take better care of myself, and learning how to take care of the MS as best as I could. The bad, of course, the walking, the canes, the hand controls, the everything that comes with our unique issues that each of us have in our own unique ways. The bad, was I going to be able to get married? Was I going to be able to become a mother? Would I be a good mother? And all the issues that pop up along the way on life's journey, even without MS, but with MS. So it's been quite a lesson, and it's the trajectory has changed time and time again, depending on what phase of my illness is manifesting itself. So it's very hard sometimes to answer some questions, because I have to think back, which is a good thing. It's giving my brain a workout, but I have to think of what really stands out. And what really stands out is just the unpredictability of this disease, and how are we best going to handle what's lying ahead, and from day to day, and looking down the long road versus looking down tomorrow, and really trying to take those lessons of adversity and finding the silver linings of it, and trying to work through what is going to work best for you, and trying not to focus on the bad. But the bad is bad. Let's be real. It's not a Pollyanna story. The bad is bad. It can really drag you down, and life changes, and as we get older, it changes and changes and changes. And how do we work with that? So the good part are the joys that we find. The bad part is the illness, and in between is every day, the mental issues, the spiritual issues, the research that's going on, and all the symptoms that you're dealing with, the comorbidities that you can accumulate, and how do we deal with all of that? So all of that is the answer to that question, which is such a broad topic, but it is. And that's what makes us all unique people, is how we deal with all of that. And it creates and molds us into who we are and who we are to become.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So we do have people asking questions, all right? And I want to ask you them as we go along, so that way, it actually fits into what we're discussing, okay? So one person is asking, and I don't know if you want to answer it, but one person is asking what your level of disability is.
So, that's a great question. And I want to preface it by saying that we are all different, and our disease manifests itself differently in each one of us. We all react to medication differently, one from another. So I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting, and And for a long time, I had no problems, or well, I shouldn't say that. I had less problems with walking than I do now. But that said, it's 35 years of living with a disease. So the relapsing remitting classification is still with me. I haven't transitioned, but walking is more difficult. It's slower. Steps are very difficult. I can't drive as far because I lose focus and my feet get too numb to drive sometimes just because of the fatigue. And so although I am relapsing remitting, we all know it's still invisible, but it's still ever present. But
Yeah.
thank you for asking that question.
Sure. And how do you, if you get tired, really tired during the day or while you're driving and you find that you may be too far from home, what do you do?
Well, for the past 2 years, I've been limiting myself to only driving 20 minutes. So I don't really drive far from home anymore.
Okay.
I mean, I went to college in Boston, so I used to drive 4 hours and I wouldn't stop now, and by the way, I think I had MS even back then. And now I only drive 20 minutes. And if I am tired, I really do pull over. But that 20 minutes doesn't really make me so tired that I can't make it one way or the other. But I do advise anyone that is tired when they drive to find a safe place to pull over and rest for a while, or just get up and do some stretches.
Absolutely. But I don't know, if I got behind the wheel and I drove 20 minutes, I could be 30 miles away.
Yeah.
That would be...
Well, I have a son and a husband that lives with me, and they are very great caregivers. So they do a lot of literal leg work for me.
Great. All right. Yeah. Another person is asking how many neurologists you've seen over all the years since you found out that you were until you found one that you were comfortable with.
Yeah. That's also a good question.
This is the MS community. There are always going to be good questions.
Absolutely. The community I love.
That's right.
I would say 4 or 5 neurologists, because when I walk in a room, people don't, obviously, if you have an invisible illness, people don't recognize that you really are having a lot of difficulties, or one big difficulty, or whatever you're experiencing. I had one neurologist once that I always come with a list of questions because I want to remember everything that I want to ask, and I won't leave the room until I get them all answered. Well, this one neurologist never looked at me, sat down, went on his computer. I started on my list, and after the second question, he said, "Okay, that's the time allotted. We have to go." And I said, "You got to be kidding me. I have more questions." And he said, "Sorry," and he got up, and that was it. I never returned to him. And that's not so, it's such an, that's not an atypical story. That happens to a lot of people with invisible illnesses of all kinds, and you have to speak up for what you need, and you have to feel comfortable with your medical team, and you have to be a team. And so if you're not comfortable with the neurologist that you're using, I advise you to try to, find one that's close enough to go to and that your insurance helps you out with, but that is good and is a good listener and is fully listening to your needs and is there for you.
That's great.
If not,
that's great.
Goodbye.
So Stephanie, I'll say her name so she can feel happy, just said amen to what you were just saying, and I wanted to say it at that time. All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So next, Patricia is asking, did you also experience a form of Cog Fog, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I just had a cognition test done last year, I want to say, before the pandemic. I had one done when I was first diagnosed, just to get a baseline. And that was, as we know, an awfully long time ago. But I felt that it was necessary. And I do feel cog fog because as you age, as we know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to go into all the specifics, but we know that as we age, that we lose some of that elasticity that we have. And so because of that, I read a lot and I do crossword puzzles and all kinds of things, but there's still that cog fog, and you don't know if it's age, you don't know if it's MS.
Right.
What's that word? What's that date? What's that? What was I thinking? Why did I come into this room? You know, where am I heading? Where am I going? When you're driving and all these things happen, and it's real and it's frustrating. And but I really recommend, if you can get those cognitive testing done as recommended by your neurologist, I would recommend getting those done because they're very helpful and they go in depth and what maybe something that they could suggest are things that you could do to help your cog fog.
That's right. So speaking about that, so, you know, I don't have cog fog, but I have other things going on with processing and cognitive issues and whatever lately. And a psychologist friend of mine told me that, you know, he's got a neurologist, a neuropsych person working with him, and they want me to come in for new psychological testing as well. You know, and if I can find the results of my previous tests that happened 23 years ago and 15 years ago, that would be a good place to match it all up and see what's going on. So
yeah,
if anybody
that's
out
who
there,
I went to, a neuropsych, and
right,
that's the best kind to go to.
right. But it, you know, even now, you could still have that testing done again to see how it relates to when you were last tested, so they could see, you know, is it age related or is it MS related? So
Right.
okay. All right, so going on to another person's question. Boy, this is going to be hard to get
Oh, I
through all
love
of
these
mine.
questions.
It's going to be hard to go through all of mine when I got to answer these. I mean, ask these. You know? All right, so I'm looking close to the screen because these glasses aren't strong enough to read this little print. All right, so the same person that asked about the fog is saying, I'm actually a very bossy patient. As a former registered nurse, now classified as a retired registered nurse, I absolutely expect the care that is appropriate, and I'm a very strong self-advocate. I wish more people had that sense or belief in that. But she's also saying that what you were describing before actually sounded like secondary progressive and not just relapse remitting, and just didn't know where the line is that cuts off from one to the other.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know where the line is drawn. I really don't. And I just know that all the different types of MS can suffer or can struggle, I should say, with cog fog. I'd like to know the answer to that question. I don't know. I know that I am still classified as RRMS, and that you know, I have had some cognition since the very beginning, a little bit of cog fog, but yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what crosses into what.
All right, not you don't have to worry about it. All right, next. Tell us about an empowered
answer, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Steve.
exactly. Of course you do. And of course I would like to hear it, but I know that none of us can. I mean, that's for the medical team to work on instead. All right. Tell us about the empowered spirit. I mean, how did you find this? How did you come up with it? Tell us where it began. Tell us how you even came up with the name.
So, I knew that I wanted to do more with what I was doing. I was advocating since day one, believe it or not, of my diagnosis. I thought I could conquer the world. I got my diagnosis. I immediately began to lead a support group, thinking that I could do that. And it really wasn't the best choice that I made, but it is what it is. So you have to remember that there were no computers back then. And then
wait, when
I was diagnosed.
Oh, back to that again. Go ahead.
Yeah. So moving forward. So some of the younger people I tell that to, I think their head's going to explode when I say that. But So anyway, so I moved forward, and I got married, and I had a son, and I was home with him, and then all of a sudden I realized, how am I going to step up my advocacy game? How am I going to take my next steps for when he's older and then go off to college and so forth? And I thought I really wanted to start a blog because I wanted to create something that I could advocate for the MS community while illustrating to, let's say, different companies, different healthcare sites, so forth, where they could check out who I am, what I'm about, what my experience and knowledge is, and hire me. It was a way of creating my next step. So I went about and I created the blog through a series of YouTube videos. Some woman did a great job of creating them, and I created my own, WordPress blog. I emailed my closest friends and relatives asking what should I call this blog, because I had no idea. Right. And I liked the word empowered because it's a very powerful word. So I just chose an empowered spirit, and I dug in, and that's where it all started. And it's 10 years now since I started it, and it's been a great ride because I've met so many people through it, and have gotten hired because of it. And I kind of just, it's one thing steamrolled into the next. I've met so many wonderful people, the readers and all my subscribers and the people through social media and through the companies. It's just been, that is ironically one of the blessings of having MS, has been that part of my journey. And my blog has brought me that, and it's been very gratifying.
Sure, thank you. And when I started my blog before MS Views and News, I mean, that was in, I think, 2006, 2005, somewhere around there, Stu's Views and MS News. And that's how it all began, so it worked for me. Empowered Spirit worked for you, and the rhyme of what I'm doing works for me. Mm-hmm. All right, next, how did your work in the past lead up to you developing the Empowered Spirit? I mean, you did tell us about, using your family and your friends, but did any of your previous work add to this as well?
Did my previous work add to my creating the blog?
Creating the idea to develop an empowered spirit.
Well, it's funny because I was telling somebody else this yesterday that a lot of my work previous to the blog, a lot of my work is lost because it's not online, because right. it wasn't on file anywhere. I mean, I started off writing letters to the editor and writing newspaper articles, and I was interviewed for books that are now out of print. There were chapters on my pregnancy and my motherhood when my son just turned 29, but he was a baby in those books. So it was, and then I spoke at a lot of support groups and so on and so forth. I could keep naming things. So all of that led up to wanting to have a place where I could write about my journey, not only about the different topics of focus that I wanted to write about, but also there was a time where I was the official blogger for a consortium of MS centers and the International Organization of MS Nurses. And through that, I had conducted a lot of interviews with different people that I met, and I was able to review a lot of the talks that I went to, things like that. And it was very gratifying for me to finally have a central place where I could record that, and it would be there for me to lean back on, or for anyone else that might want to know something that happened in the past, they could go back to an empowered spirit. I just updated the blog through a grant, because of a grant through Healthy Voices. And I published my first blog post yesterday, but everything else that I wrote prior to that is archived. And it's kind of like a photo album, a scrapbook of my work since 2011. You know, I don't think you can appreciate how fortunate the younger advocates and the younger, well, everybody younger that has MS, how fortunate you all are to have the internet at your disposal and to be able to use that in a way that helps you build your own communities, where before that it was very difficult to do so. And it's ironically a better time. Like somebody says, you know, if you're going to be in a club with an incurable disease, you may as well hang out with the cool kids. Well, the cool kids are all on the internet, and they're all in the groups, and they're all on, let's say, Instagram, or they're all on MS Views and News because they want to find where the great information is. Very fortunate. That was a long around the road to your questions, Joe.
Yes, it's okay. Can you share with us what writing means to you and how blogging reaches the MS community?
Well, writing is not only a joy for me, it's very cathartic as well, but it also is a way of me to put to paper the information that I want to share with others to educate the MS community and to inspire them to try to, you know, to live through their struggles and to face them and to, you know, work with the challenges that they face every day, when we all do. So through the writing and through the blogging is a way for us to kind of journey together. And when I find out pieces of information that are very important, because I read constantly and I'm subscribed to, you know, like Medscape and ProPublica and all those, but also to all the MS organizations, so I can share, impart that knowledge that I've found and share it with my subscribers. And so that is very gratifying, because if I help even one person, that's the whole ball game for me. That's everything.
That's great.
So that's what the blogging and the writing does.
That's fabulous. So two things. Firstly, Patricia's got a long verbiage, and then she has a question at the very end. All right. And
Sure.
and then somebody else is asking, a person named Jill wants to know what the URL is to your blog. So we'll get to that in a moment. So first, let me read you what Patricia writes. I completely agree that the internet is an incredible advantage. I earned my doctorate, and without the internet, it would have been so much more difficult. I think I'm beginning to understand some of your motivation, as you did not have the social platform that is now available. Am I correct in that?
Oh, absolutely. It was so overwhelming and so scary for me at the beginning, and I just never wanted anybody to have to go through that, through any of that. You know, I was surrounded by great family, and by the way, the boyfriend is now my husband's, so
Right,
that worked out well too. And so I never wanted anybody to go through that. It was a really dark place, and so yes, Patricia, you're absolutely, you're very aware, you're very keen, and I applaud you for noticing that. Yes, that is my motivation, and it will be my mission for the rest of my days.
That's great.
To help
And I'm going to tell you all that Cathy doesn't have as bad memory as she said she does, because she even remembered Patricia's name, Patricia. Okay. Before I get to your other questions, tell me the Empowered Spirits URL, so I can just type it in here right now so everybody can see it.
Well, it's www.anempoweredspirit.com.
And Empowered Spirit?
Yes. anempoweredspirit.com.
Okay. My fingers aren't.
It's brand spanking new now.
Okay. And empoweredspirit.com. Got it. All right. Everybody, you're about to see it. Okay, cool. All right. Next, what do you feel the greatest impacts of COVID-19 has been on the MS community? For you personally, well, let's just talk about the MS community first.
Sure. I believe that the biggest impact of COVID, aside from all the obvious, is the mental aspect of it. I think that mental health took a real hit over the past 2 years. We were already living with this unpredictable, incurable chronic disease. And now here we are hit with this virus that's also unpredictable, that in many ways, predictable yet unpredictable. I think that the stigma of mental health, mental illness must be removed. I think we need to talk about how we're being hit mentally. During COVID, it was a scary time. I myself had total, and still do have, total anxiety around it. And I think that we need to, as a community, lean on each other, as you know, to really talk about these things openly and authentically, and try to find, you know, whatever comfort, whatever information we can to help each other. And we need our medical teams to also open up about that as well, to be aware of what we're going through and to be there to help us as we struggle, and to see it as something that's real and not imagined, and not necessarily only something chemical, but something that is very emotional, stressful. That's my answer to that question.
Okay, I just want to add to that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I'm on a lot of the ad boards with the pharmaceutical companies about this. And the biggest problem that I see the MS community facing with COVID information coming from the medical industry is for those that, especially for those that do not have internet. Okay, how are they getting the information? For those that live outside of urban America, for those that live out of suburbia, for those, though, that are living primarily rural, and those that are in metropolitan America that just don't go on the internet, how are they finding out their information? And so I think it's very, very important that we go beyond the chat boards, beyond the blogs, beyond what we're doing on social media, and be able to actually get on the phone and reach out. For anybody that's a support group leader, they should actually be calling everybody in their group to make sure that they know about COVID-MS through the National MS Society, that they're speaking with their doctors to find out, you know, if they are any more susceptible to COVID because of medications that they might be on, and so on. So, you know, it's the thing about COVID and MS goes way beyond, you know, there are more people that don't know what needs to be known than those that do. And so, you know, I'm asking you, what do you think of how to get the word out there to those that don't have the information, that are not on the internet? How do we get the information to them?
Well, that's a great question, because I've often thought about the rural communities, the undeserved, okay, thank you.
Understood.
Yes, yep. Underserved populations, because this has been a question for ever since I can remember, and I don't know how that's being addressed. I think that for me, I really like to find more and more ways to get off social media. I mean, not to be as dependent on social media to get out the information that I think is so vital. I know that there used to be, when I worked for Consortium, there were some, you know, grants being given to, you know, people that were working on, like, let's just say, getting iPads out to the rural community so they could connect with doctors that were the ones that they wanted to see that were far away, things like this. I don't know exactly what the answer is to that question, I know that you certainly travel around the country, and I wish that a lot of us could or would or were able to do the same, because the information needs to be brought to the attention of every single patient, because they're deserving.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is to that question, Stu.
Well,
I honestly,
there is no, I don't think that there is an answer. I haven't found one person that actually can answer what I just put to you. There are many that thought that they had everything in line or set up, between the different patient advocacy organizations as well as pharma. But the answer is it goes way beyond the internet. And so that is
way
the reason
beyond the internet, way beyond the internet, yeah.
way beyond the internet. And that is the reason for our Compass MS Care program, because that's a program that goes to rural America and underserved communities. And so the more we could get out there to do that, which is why I do the travel that I do, so we could bring that information to people that, primarily do not use the internet the way they should be doing. All right. So how has COVID affected you personally? That's a good one.
Well, I was uber careful about getting COVID, and so was my husband, and my son lives with us. And I got the vaccine and my booster, and my husband had gotten the vaccine, so he couldn't get the booster yet. And lo and behold, he and I got COVID. He got it a few days before I did, and luckily our son did not get it. It was, underlined, all caps, horrific. And that was with the vaccines and the booster. It was, I felt like the flu times a zillion. I was in pain constantly. My body ached. I just slept all the time. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I hardly had any appetite. It was really horrific. And I can't imagine not having had the vaccine and the booster. And even weeks later, my husband and I are still having issues with breathing and fatigue. He was allowed to get his booster yesterday, and thank God he's doing okay. So that was a huge scare and a huge impact on us, and mentally as well. That created even more anxiety, and because it was scary, and I wasn't sure what the long, you read about long COVID, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but it does affect you in many, many ways. And maybe, maybe I'm being set up to write another blog post, no, but who knows?
So you might be. So Tell us about how you differentiate, though, the fatigue that you felt you got from COVID versus the fatigue that you suffer from MS.
It was funny when the pandemic started, I wrote a blog post that people in the MS community were already prepared to stay away from people with germs, and we already knew what fatigue felt like, and that we were ahead of the game because we were familiar with this territory. But the fatigue from COVID was worse than any and I, believe me, I have to nap every day, so I get bad fatigue from MS, and that fatigue had me in bed, I would say, 20 hours a day from the COVID. It was just awful. It was like having, to me, I don't know, MS is like having the flu times a million, and then COVID is like times a zillion. So there you go. It was just a silly example, but it was huge. So it's something you do not want to get. And now with the variant, I really can't say.
So the variants are probably going to be like coming along constantly anyway. More or less like every year you have a different flu strain, so now you have a different COVID variant that's probably going to be similar, but it'll get just more recognition. So Patricia, our retired registered nurse, now has something else to say. And I'm sure she's giggling at that now, but she writes, it's interesting that some of the COVID patients who convert into long haulers actually experience many symptoms that we are similar to with MS. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same and it's different, even though that makes no sense. You do have the fatigue, you do have the aches. It is hard to walk. It is hard to get around. It's hard to think. And everybody has a different form of the COVID as well. My husband had it. I don't want to say he had it easier, but he was up and around. He was making my meals for me. So God bless him. He was in the kitchen when I was just laying in bed. But it does have some similarities to it, but it's definitely I would say has more differences than anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for those answers. Patricia, I just want to go back to something that you wrote a few moments ago about the rural America and difficulty with internet access and that you don't or whatever. I see what you're saying, but I'm not saying that everybody in rural America doesn't have internet, though a lot of people in rural America do have problems with internet. All right. It can work either way. And when I'm talking about rural America, I'm also talking about people that are 3 hours from the nearest city, not 70 miles away from the nearest city. We've had people come for some of our programs from 4 and 5 hours away to come to a program that we're doing in that distance from where they live, because that's the only time that they've ever had a program come near them. So yeah, it's rural America, remote rural America. There's all different ways of looking at it, but it's also any area that's an underserved area, and that accounts for much of those that live in rural America. So I just wanted to answer that to you, so that way we can then go forward and you have your answer. Okay, so she said she wanted to do a recommendation for that, but I didn't see the recommendation. So I don't see everything on here, Patricia. Sorry. Some of it disappears before I can get to it all. All right. Next for you, Cathy. As a patient advocate, what has been your most inspiring or moving project of work for the MS community?
Well, two things come to mind. That jumps out at me. There were two initiatives that I was part of that I thought were great for the MS community. One was I was part of a huge campaign with a pharmaceutical company, and it was focused on brain health for the MS community. And through that, it was 2 intensive days of interviews with television programs, radio, TV, magazines, local newspapers, international newspapers. And I just loved, because you have to remember where I came from when nobody was talking about MS and nobody discussed these things, to this, where everybody wanted to know not only about MS, but how our brain is affected by our disease. And so that program it felt so surreal, and it was so special, and it was so beneficial to the entire community. And that really stayed with me. The other program that I was part of was with another pharmaceutical company. And again, you have to go back to, there were no medications for my first 7 years of having MS. So this initiative, I was part of a patient panel, which I do very often. I think I'm under 4 different contracts right now with different companies to represent the patient voice. But this one in particular had the researchers and scientists that made the medication or helped to, it's always a team, make the medication, one of the medications that is for MS. And they brought us into the lab and they showed us what was being made. And I went up at the end and I hugged, this guy probably thought I was nuts, but I hugged one of the scientists and I said, "You have no idea what this means to me and means to our community. And I'm so overwhelmed with emotion that I wanted to thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. And that also always stayed with me. So those two jump out at me.
Great. Can you tell us what organizations you're writing for? I mean, what companies, organizations, or otherwise? Who is it that you write with the most?
Write with the most. Well, I haven't really been writing for organizations in the last couple of years. I've been doing, most of my work has been on patient panels because I like to be part of those to let them know what patients are looking for, what are patients not appreciating, how do we like things worded, how do we we want to be treated with dignity and respect. I love being part of those initiatives. I love speaking to people about that, about the patient, from our perspective.
Sure.
When I do, I used to be a regular contributor to Huffington Post, and that was the last time because I also want to write for publications that are not MS centered. And I would write articles about MS because I wanted to educate the non-MS public. And that also was always one of my goals. So I do send out a lot of queries to be published in different magazines and articles that I want those communities to be educated about what we are dealing with and what we are living with. So
tell us about We Go Health, or
We Go Health.
Okay.
I am in love with them because they support online patient leaders in a way that I've never been supported before in that way. They provide courses to become better advocates. They just are a compassionate, dedicated organization that are there to provide different programs to educate us, to lift us. They have, we used to have in person. I went to Dallas as part of, it was Healthy Voices, We Go Health, to meet other advocates outside of the MS community, which I also appreciated because we're more alike than we think. We have more in common than we think. And I loved that. WeGo has lifted me up and showed me different things that I need and that I wanted to learn. They've offered, they've offered so much for the advocate that I feel very comforted and very taken care of. And last year I won the Lifetime Achievement Award,
Great.
Which was huge for me because it just was. It felt really damn good.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. So, all right, new subject. I know you've expressed a lot of interest in discussing aging with multiple sclerosis. Can you share some key things that you feel may help others as they age with MS?
Well, I think it's all the typical things of aging with or without MS apply to aging with MS, and that is to exercise within your abilities. If you walk a little, if you do chair yoga, if you do some Tai Chi, or if you can swim, do some aqua therapy, whatever it is, it's good to keep your muscles limber. You want to, because you want to keep your balance as you get older. You want to keep your bones strong. Exercise and then diet, of course, is very important. I've eliminated gluten, sugar, and dairy only because I have a gluten intolerance and IBS, but I do feel better off those things. You have to find a particular diet that is appropriate for you and what you're interested in and what you need. And I would suggest that you do that through somebody who's certified in helping you with that, like a nutritionist. And just a positive mindset as best as you can. You know, if you need if you need a therapist to help you with that, or support groups, or journaling. I also meditate a lot. That really helps me stay grounded and stay focused on what's good in life and the joy of life, and not focusing on the negative. And I just also want to say that with aging with MS, that there's no line in the sand that I know of that's drawn to say that you are older or old or anything like that, because you could be 15 or 95 and you are still of value, you still matter, and you still have something to give. And I think that we are all equal to each other. It's just a chronological number. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because I've seen it more and more that people who are my age and older are sometimes left out of the game, because I've heard from other people that sometimes doctors are not prescribing medications because they figure the people are old enough there, and this is all hearsay. So, or I see a lot of campaigns going on that are, you know, PR marketing campaigns with younger patients, and it's true, we're younger most times when we're diagnosed, but the older patients need to be tended to as well. They need to be represented, and they need to show that we are still have a lot to give in this life. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have to say on the aging right now.
Okay. I like when you say that all the time. I think that's all I have to say about this. Then I know we're done and I can go on to the next thing. All right. So that's pretty cool. All right. Tammy, we have a new person asking something. Tammy, thank you, Tammy. All right. Do you advocate? Do you do any advocacy work for individuals or just the MS community?
I actually have my certification in advocacy, and I went back to school to get that right about the time that I started to blog. But at the time, I noticed that people wanted advocates, personal advocates, to be nurses, and I can understand that. And that's why I switched my route to do more of the writing and more of the advocacy with companies and things. So no, I haven't done any one-on-one advocacy work, but it ain't over. So who knows? If you're interested, you could always reach out and we could talk about what you're looking for, and either I could help you or I could give you a name or an idea of where you could reach out for something else.
That's right. That's right. All right. Before I go into the last few questions that we have, I want to let everybody know that, yeah, we are winding down the year just like everybody else is. We're winding down the year. We have just 3 more programs remaining in this year. That's amazing for me to say because, and Cathy doesn't know this, but I'm about to tell Cathy as well because she's right here, so she gets to hear it. All right. So, so when we finish this year, MS Views and News will have completed 111 programs. That's virtual programs. Those are MS learning programs. Those are the physical therapy programs that we do, the Pilates, the yoga, which is our moving with MS Mondays is something always to do with either physical therapy, yoga, or Pilates. And who knows, maybe next year we'll throw another twist into that as well. You know, so that's a day of reckoning for everybody that they could do something with their bodies. But then we also have 2 other programs remaining. One next week with Jessica Thomas on a mental wellness program that we started also this year. And then we have yoga at the end of the month on the 27th with Megan Weigel. All right. And our Pilates and yoga and physical therapy will all continue. You know, we're set up to do this for years. So, you know, we hope that people will be online and be able to do this with us and actually, you know, make it work for yourselves. All right. So going back to another question from Patricia, she wants to know, I'm going to take the short end of it. Do you find the need to use adaptive tools? And are there any that you recommend that you find more useful than another?
Over the years, I have had to rely on cane, and I did used to drive with hand controls. That was before I had my son, and when I got pregnant, they all went away. I don't recommend that as a way of getting rid of your cane and hand controls. I have had to use my cane once in a while over the years, but I have not relied on mobility aids. So I really am not the authority on giving any kind of recommendations. I am active on Instagram, and there are many people with MS that use the hashtag, you know, oh gosh, I'm going to forget it now. It's a cool hashtag, but mobility aids or you know, chicks with mobility aids or something like that. And they do have MS, and they do have, I mean, I can name some names here, but I don't know if I should, so I won't. But they have platforms where they do share what they feel is the best or what works the best for them. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I would, again, if you want to go onto my blog and send me you know, fill out the contact form, and I can refer you to some of those people that I'm thinking of right now. I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Again, I'm going to ask another couple of questions, but again, Patricia has something to say, and that is that she absolutely loves MS Views and News, by far the best programs and virtual conferences that she has viewed. Thank you. All right.
Nice.
So going further along here, before I get to a question that you know that we have written for you, I want to ask you about your family's involvement with you and your multiple sclerosis. You've often mentioned about your husband, you mentioned about your son. Tell us what they do for you. Tell us when it is that you find it most. We already know about the driving, but what else? What else do you find worked for the family and didn't become a problem for the family?
Well, you know, I was very blessed that my husband was with me from the beginning. I mean, he did take me for my MRIs, or for my spinal tap and all when I was diagnosed. So he's been with me and learning with me, and he's my advocate because he's seen it all and he remembers it all. So I'm very blessed in that way. And I'm equally blessed with my son, who has only known his mom to have MS. You know, I had it when he was born. And so we exposed him and never minced words. We decided right from the start that he would know all about disability and what it's like to live with somebody that has a incurable right now illness. So they really, my husband loves to cook and he loves to grocery shop, and ain't I lucky, because, you know, the fatigue has increased over the years. And so he cooks me breakfast every morning and he cooks dinner, and, you know, and with the job and all that, they both allow me the time when I need to rest. And, you know, that, I mean, by allow, I mean that they're quiet and they understand. They do the grocery shopping and all that, of course. But also when I'm having really difficult days, they know that they're good ears, they're listening, they're hearing. And, you know, again, it's not all Pollyanna. It's tough on them too, to see me going through this. And also the heavy burden that they have to lift. It's not easy, but day to day, I would just say that we're in our own rhythm, and they're there when I need them for whatever that may be. And when I can, and when I have the energy or the ability, I try to do what I can as well, because I feel good about being able to contribute, and I feel good about helping them. So we're kind of, a really tight-knit family that knows the rhythm of MS. So I feel deeply, deeply blessed with that. And it's, here, Stu, that's all I have to say on that. I said that on purpose.
I know you did.
Did
I
that
know
answer your question?
you barked into the laptop. I saw what you did there. Okay. Okay. So, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Everything that you said was extremely interesting. Is your extended family involved outside of your husband and your son? Are there any other family relatives that are involved?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, they were very involved, and right from the beginning. My dad jumped on the board of the MS center where I started going to when the neurologist told me to move on over to a comprehensive care. My brothers and my husband and I were part of a group of young professionals that were fundraising for MS.
Sure.
And my son always, he got all of his friends to do a lot of the walks and things over the years, got big groups together to do that. So, and then I have a lot of good friends that were always there for me whenever I, any way that they could, any way that they could contribute. And my dad ran a huge fundraiser once down on Jersey City, right on the water that overlooks the Manhattan skyline. And it was for the Comprehensive Care Center. Right. And it was very well attended, hundreds of people, and a lot of family, friends of friends. So you really, those are one of those good things that come out of a diagnosis, is when you have those blessings, you have to just step back and be so grateful for them when they happen.
Great. Thank you. You didn't say that's it. Got you. All right. Again, before people start disappearing and before I get to my last question for you, I want to thank everybody that's been online tonight. Many of you have been with us all year for all of our programs. This started probably in 2020. And just know that even when life seems to be getting more back to normal and people are doing more things openly and indoors again and going to hopefully attending live programs again and maybe getting into an MS Views and News live program if we happen to be near you, please know that we are going to continue doing most of our programs virtually. All right. We're touching on so many more lives than what could have been done if we were just doing all these programs in person. So we will continue to do these programs virtually for as long as they have internet, I guess you can say. Okay. Maybe we'll take it to another planet eventually. All right. We'll have to see about that. Although, who knows? Maybe I could get Elon Musk to invite us up, and that would be pretty cool, right? That'd be great. I would love to do that. All right. Going back to the last question that I have for you. And by the way, all of your answers have been extraordinary, phenomenal. I mean, I don't even know the word to say. It's outrageous. It's very, very nice to hear everything that we discussed tonight. And I want to applaud you before anybody else can.
Oh, thank you, Stu. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I've known you for a long time.
That's right. I remember the days you coming over to us at a booth at one of the CMSC events, and I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad you're back. Yeah. Now we're back.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're here. All right. What is your motivation to continue to do all the important work that you're doing?
I think it's the same motivation that I've always had since the beginning, is that if I can help even one person not find that dark place that we can definitely find very easily when we're diagnosed, that's the whole ball game. It motivates me every day that I get up. And even during COVID, I still did I couldn't believe it, but I still did Zoom sessions with the patient panels that I'm part of. It motivates me. It motivates me to know that I can help someone else to pay it forward. You know, that I hope that someday that would be my legacy, that I helped somebody feel better and that they'll pay it forward, and so on and so on. And that's what it's all about.
I'm more proud today to say that I know Cathy Chester than in the past.
Oh, thank you.
Right. And a couple of people wrote, I agree, and I understand you fully. And another person writes, she's full of MS knowledge and very sincere. This is coming from Maria, who's a MS support group leader down in Miami. And Maria's, knows that I have her back too. Stephanie writes, please. What is she writing? No, I can't even say that out loud now. Okay, no big deal. All right. The bottom line is, Cathy, you are a definite need in the MS space, and I'm glad that I've known you for all these years, and I'm hoping that all these people that are on tonight will share when we publish this online. They'll share it with everybody else that they know, so that they can learn from this as well. Okay. And
I hope so too.
I want to wish you a very good night. I want to wish you all happy holidays. Some of us have already had our holidays. Happy Hanukkah to those that had Hanukkah already. Merry Christmas to those that have Christmas coming. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. Okay?
Thank you for having me. And happy and healthy. Stay safe, everyone.
Happy and healthy. I hope to see you in Florida.
Yeah, me too. Coming soon.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.